Hello everybody, I hope everyone's spring breaks went well. Mine's going well so far. And today I'm going to be making a poke bowl. The recipe that I'm going to be using is a family recipe, which I'm going to put on the screen now if you want to make it in the future or follow along or anything like that. To begin, we're going to start with the rice, which you are going to need 1.5 cups of sushi rice, which is mainly produced in the Sacramento Valley and is planted in spring and harvested in the fall. To harvest, the harvesters usually drain the fields that they are planted in, and then they cut them with either a scythe or a sickle, and then they leave them to dry for about 2 to 3 days, and when they come back, they'll separate the grain from the stalk and leave them to dry once again. Once they're done drying, they'll be milled and then they're ready to be sold. Today we are going to be cooking our rice in an Instapot because it can sit perfect every single time. And before you can start cooking your rice, you do need to wash it about 3 times or until the water is completely clear before you can start cooking it. So I'm gonna go wash my rice now. Once you are done fully washing your rice, you are going to add 1.5 cups of cold water and cook it for 6 minutes in the Instapot. While the rice cooks, we're going to move on to the jus, which is a seasoning that will be added to the rice once it's done cooking. To make the jus, you're going to need 6 tablespoons of rice vinegar, 3 tablespoons of granular sugar, and 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. We're going to put all these ingredients into a pan and heat it over medium to low heat and stir it until both the salt and the sugar have been completely dissolved. You want to take it off though right before it boils because we do not want it to come to a boil. While we wait for the rice to be finished cooking, let's move on to the fish. For this step, you can use any sashimi grade fish or fish that is okay for you to eat raw. You just want to make sure you check that before you decide to put that in your poke bowl. Today, I am going to be using king salmon because it's a very fatty kind of salmon. And it goes really well in a poke bowl. And the other kind of fish that I'm going to be using is a yellowtail tuna. And normally I use ahi, however this our neighbor just caught and gave to us, so I'm going to be using this today. So now that you've chosen what kind of fish you're going to do, we're going to cut it. You can cut it however you'd like to go in your bowl. I personally prefer smaller cube size, usually 1/2 to 1 inch thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these now. Once you have completely cut your fish, we're going to put these into bowls and place them in the fridge to chill out for a while. Now that my fish is currently hanging out in the fridge outside, I'm going to start on the marinade. Okay, these are all the ingredients that you are going to need for your marinade. It does look a little scary to begin with, but I promise it is super easy to make. So on this far side, we're going to start with 1/4 cup of light soy sauce. Today I am using tamari, which is gluten-free friendly because my mom has a gluten allergy. Next, we have 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, and then we have 2 tablespoons of chili paste. Personally, I put 1.5 tablespoons because I'm a wimp when it comes to spice. You can put however much you'd like, however spicy you want it. Next, we have 1.5 tablespoons of fresh lime juice. And then we have 1/3 cup of green onions, finely sliced, 1/3 cup white onions, also finely sliced, and then we have 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds and 1 teaspoon of ginger. And I promise it is easy. All you're going to do is take all these ingredients, throw them into a bowl, and whisk it. Once you have all your ingredients in the bowl, like I stated earlier, you are just going to whisk it, and it has to be with your favorite whisk. My whisk of choice is this little giraffe. Love him to death. I am going to be separating my marinade into a 1/3 to 2/3 ratio because I do have more salmon than I do yellowtail. Now that I have my marinades separated, I'm going to pour them into the bowls with my fish, and then once that's done, I'm gonna let them sit on the side for about 10 to 20 minutes. To pour the marinade in, you're gonna wanna stir the fish up in the marinade a bit just to make sure that it coats every piece. Right? Isn't that good?
Oh my God.
Isn't that yummy? My mom approves. Now that your rice is done cooking, you're going to get a baking sheet and you're going to evenly layer out the rice on top of it. And while it's still warm, you're going to lay the jus sauce that we made earlier on top and mix it all up evenly. And then we are going to place that to the side and let it cool for about 10 minutes to just let the seasoning completely meld in with the rice. We're just gonna get it out. Actually worked really well. Better than I thought it would. So we want to do this as quickly as possible while the rice is still warm, otherwise it won't really work that well. So we're taking our jus sauce from earlier and we are going to layer it on top of the rice. This is a lot of jus, so you don't necessarily need to use all of it, just as much as you think is necessary to coat all of the rice that is on your baking sheet. Also, once the jus is on, you can taste the rice and see if it tastes right, just to see if you have the right amount on or not. I'm going to sit this on the side and let it cool for about 10 minutes and just let that jus completely soak into the rice. So you can add pretty much anything that you want to. Personally, my favorite topping is avocado. Avocados are another California grown vegetable. They are grown between San Luis Obispo and San Diego. Just a little fun trivia fact, I live about 2 miles away from what is known as the Citricata Highway, which is where pretty much all avocados are grown in that area, and it's just avocado farms for miles. They are planted between March and June, and they are harvested from late April to August. And they are just harvested by hand with one of those pole pickers, and the harvesters will just stand on the ground and use the pole pickers to pull them down from the trees. You can also add onion, carrots. I like green onions on mine. These are some sesame seeds. We also have crunchy onion and garlic, which I feel are a must-have. Some greens just to spice things up a little bit, and some cucumbers. And on this board, carrots are also another California grown crop. They're grown mainly in the San Joaquin Valley in the early spring. They're harvested around early summer, and they're usually harvested by a mechanical multi-row harvester instead of by hand. And from there, the tops will be cut off and they'll be sent to some kind of farm where they will wash it, size it, and ship it out. And then the last California grown crop that I will be adding are cucumbers. And cucumbers are also typically grown in the San Joaquin Valley and San Diego as well. For the winter harvest, they're usually planted in January, and for fall harvest, they're planted from March to August. They are harvested either around mid-March to June or from May to November, and they're picked early in the morning by hand using either a sharp knife or some kind of cutters to cut them from the vine. Now that I have my poke bowl completely stocked out with all the amazing toppings, I'm gonna have a guest judge come and try it for me.
A little bit of everything in there.
I'm like nervous. Is it good? Out of 10, what do you think it would be?
I'm gonna give you a 9.5.
9.5? That's
Yeah.
pretty high. Can you tell me which California crops I used and what their scientific names are?
Sure, you used rice, which is Oryza sativa, or sativa, I'm not sure. Avocado, which is Persea americana. Carrots, which is Daucus carota. And my favorite, cucumbers, which is Cucumis sativus, or sativus, not sure.
Thank you. Now I'm gonna go eat the rest of this. Bye!